So we're here at NFT NYC up here at Margaritaville. Shout out to the NFT NYC fam for having me out. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about like the evolution of Bitcoin. For the first time, I was able to explain Bitcoin to a 80-year-old grandma and probably like a 95-year-old great grandma last night, where they both go, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And I say, "I'm sorry, it's a lot to take in," but I tried my best to explain what Bitcoin is, what Bitcoin represents, and why, as any human, you should seriously consider investing in Bitcoin. So in this video, I want to talk about why the average person who knows nothing about crypto should really start to understand and look into Bitcoin. I'm not telling you guys to invest. This is not investing advice. This is just me giving you guys my honest opinion. And what that means is, in order to understand Bitcoin, you need to understand how currency came about. So back in like the AD, right, there were glass beads in Africa. Africa figured out how to make glass beads through a process, right, which was very work intensive. So it was hard to forge or fake and make counterfeit beads. Like the amount of time and energy you put in, you could do that into a product, into farming and whatever, and gain more money. So it wasn't beneficial for you to actually counterfeit these glass beads. Well, fast forward again, you know, a couple hundred years, and the English in factories or warehouses or whatever figured out how to, you know, counterfeit these glass beads. So the English were, you know, importing all these counterfeit glass beads into Africa, taking supplies out of Africa, and eventually it just, you know, snowballed until it collapsed. That brings us over to gold. But what gold fails at is because you don't necessarily want this, you don't necessarily want dollars, right? You want the services that dollars provide for you. You want your money to be durable, meaning you want to be able to put it in a safe and it not depreciate. Like I couldn't hold apples, right? You want it to be divisible. You want to be able to go out and pay for a cup of coffee. You want to be able to buy a cup of coffee, or you want to be able to pay for your mortgage on your house, right? The next part is portability. You need to be able to port it. You need to be able to transport it across space and time with the least amount of friction. And that's where gold really failed, right? Where gold thrived was its scarcity. So what made gold scarce is the fact of how much work that actually went into mining it. And there was no faking it, because by the time that gold really became a thing, you could actually test it and verify. But there's also a way, they call it sound money, right? People used to take gold and throw it on metal, and it would bounce off the metal, and if it made a certain sound, that's how you knew that it was actually real gold, or you thought anyways. So then fast forward, as nations start getting built, towns start getting busy, it wasn't feasibly convenient for you to verify authenticity of gold. So when your town is busy and people are coming in and out of your stores, guess what? They're paying with gold. It's time consuming. Lines build up. It's just not easy for businesses to interact with gold as a day-to-day currency. But the market started to evolve. So this is where we go into like this 1800s, right? Where they started to have these warehouses, gold warehouses. I don't know any names specific. These warehouses, you would go, drop your gold off, and they would give you a receipt. And this is where it says like the phrase, "it's as good as gold" came from. Because you could take that receipt and interact in the marketplace, and then at any time, it was as good as gold, because you could take it to the warehouse and you'd get your gold in return. Obviously, they'd probably take a small fee, whatever it is. So that's where you have the evolution of money. Now, once you understand the evolution of money, you can really start to understand that Bitcoin is Bitcoin and is going to dominate, because the five services that money provides for you: scarcity, Bitcoin, finite supply. It's the only currency that doesn't have an infinite supply. Gold's great, but they just found a meteor that's in reach with $4 trillion worth of gold on it. Estimate, that's just an estimate. So they're not far from sending a robot there. 100% operated, 100% machine operated robot to this asteroid or this meteorite, and just harnessing all the gold. And that's just on one meteor, 4 trillion. So gold being scarce on Earth was one thing. So you got to look at it from that aspect too, where at any point, if they harness that $4 trillion worth of gold, guess what that's going to do? The gold market cap right now is roughly 11 trillion. So you're talking about being able to dilute the market by 40%. Who knows? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. They don't even really know how much gold is on that meteor. So now you think about the US dollars, right? And Uncle Sam just prints. And how long is it before like the Gen Z generation realizes that your grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, your parents, They have been passing down their wealth from generation to generation in hopes that one day life gets easier for you, because they went to school, they got a good job, they worked hard, they saved, they put in their 401k, and guess what? They're 65. Maybe their body is just destroyed from working 60 years to leave you almost nothing, sometimes even debt. Because every time that Uncle Sam turns that printer on and makes that printer go burr, guess what? The 40 hours you worked, now you gotta work 42, because your money just doesn't go as far. So how long do you think it is till this younger generation starts going, why would I even want to get paid in dollars? You see the Miami, you see the governor or mayor of Miami saying that he's so bullish on Bitcoin that he's going to accept his entire payroll, his entire salary paid in Bitcoin. So you're seeing cities, governors, politicians really start adopting the fact that, hey guys, like the current financial system is effed. So what that has is you have energy, you have technology, you have political, right? The energy market is enormous, right? Like the world can't function without electricity. So without electricity, what happens? Without a constant consumer of electricity, what happens? They need to store that. So areas where you have intermittent energy, like Arizona, where they turn on their AC units, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? But after that, no AC units are running. People's lights are even off in their house because they're sleeping at night, right? So you have a massive spike up in energy consumption followed by a just dead zone. In order to deliver the amount of energy needed during the daytime, they need to produce that amount of energy pretty much 24/7, because storing it is very expensive, ends up costing them a lot of money. So they end up having to charge the consumer more money for electricity because they need to offset that waste. But if they plug in a Bitcoin miner, they can turn that wasted energy into digital gold, which will then lower the price, lower the cost of electricity for everybody in the market. So you see like Marathon, DTE, consumers, all deploying resources to build Bitcoin mining infrastructure. You then, because the difficulty is getting harder, right? The technology has to evolve. In order to be efficient and profitable as a Bitcoin miner, you pretty much need to have the latest and greatest equipment. So it forces you every about 3 to 4 years to really upgrade your equipment, or you're just gonna get pushed off. So you now have Bitcoin miners bringing people from the energy market into the political arena. And it's crazy to think that you also have tech, because they're upgrading their equipment. So Bitcoin miners are probably the #1 consumer of semiconductors right now. All the equipment's back ordered. And not just Bitcoin, other mining platforms as well. So they're being this like really consumer of energy, consumer of technology. So you have the two biggest sectors, tech and energy, right? Who do they control? Politicians. So we just saw like the governor of Miami, just full send crypto. He's all in, right? What you're gonna watch is you're gonna watch Miami thrive. You're gonna watch their economy. You're gonna watch basically think of Miami or cities or states like ecosystems, right? You have businesses, you have towns, you have same thing as DeFi, lending, borrowing, scaling, layer 2s. So what you're seeing here is that shift, that paradigm shift, where people are really starting to wake up and go, wow, if I do not interact with Bitcoin, the only person that loses is myself. If I go against Bitcoin, I really am doing myself a disservice. If I just, stand on the sidelines and don't say a word, it's okay. I'm still doing myself a disservice. But if I go against it, and the person next to me in the next state, the next president or the next senator is for it, anybody that backed him believed in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin always goes up. So it's a win. When you back Bitcoin, you win. When you oppose Bitcoin, you lose. I mean, look at Peter Schiff, look at Warren Buffett. Not that they lost as individual investors, but look at how much more profitable they could have been had they invested in Bitcoin. Look at how much smarter they would have sounded instead of calling Bitcoin rat poison squared. If you would have said it has like massive technology advances and whatever. But they took those hard stances against it, and that's what, Warren Buffett goes down as the greatest investor of all time, but a lot of people remember that he was calling Bitcoin rat poison squared. Peter Schiff, look at how great of an investor he is, but look at how everybody dogs him now. Like, yeah, great investor, great stock decisions you made, your stocks are going downhill. And not that the stocks are going downhill, but look at all those great investments you made, but a majority of people just remember Peter Schiff being the guy that was against Bitcoin, right? So you oppose Bitcoin, you lose. You try to push Bitcoin away, you lose. You don't invest in Bitcoin, you lose. It's sucking in politicians, it's sucking in energy, it's sucking in technology, it's sucking in miners, right? So it builds this, what I call the crypto vortex, or actually what Michael Saylor calls this crypto vortex, or the Bitcoin vortex. But I took that a step farther and started applying it to other cryptocurrencies like Dana. Like, what other cryptocurrencies actually have what Bitcoin has on a, multiple sided level? It's very few. So it's interesting to see that I was able to break that down and explain to people that are 80, right? Like, here's what Bitcoin is. It's nothing different than digital gold. And by that, you need to understand how gold got started. Gold was created as a way to preserve wealth. You were getting paid. You wanted to hold on to an asset that did not lose value. So that way, when you needed to use it, you could go interact with it in any marketplace. And gold was accepted on a global scale. Everybody saw that as a valued currency. The US dollar, pretty much, because you could swap it out for yen or whatever. But we don't have that global currency. And when you're looking for a currency, you just want 5 things from that currency: divisible, scarceability, portable, recognizable, and durable. Durable, divisible, recognizable, portable, and scarce. Once you are those things, what do you need to be? Like, I don't need anything. Currency hasn't evolved for eons because there was never really a need to until there was a need to. Now there's a need to because Uncle Sam just prints and prints and prints. So where I'm going with this, guys, is if you guys are not into crypto, I promise you guys just need to do it. Even if it's on a small increments, just get involved. That way you guys can get your feet wet. And what's been interesting for somebody that's my age, like, I grew up in a time where understanding how to invest in cryptocurrency or understanding how to invest in the stock market and preserve your wealth was never a thing. We just didn't know. We were never taught that. So even being in my early 30s, in the last year, I felt like I've learned more about financial success and being successful on a financial level and growing self-wealth and preserving self-wealth than I have in the previous 30 years. And it's all because of the crypto space. So I'm a huge believer. People say, like, these people that grow in crypto would never be a millionaire. They have to do this, they have to do this. Guys, I started with absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nobody put me on. I even took my job back as a controls engineer after I had been self-employed for 2 years, because I knew that when I was making this transition into full-time YouTube, that I wasn't gonna be able to make more money in YouTube than I would actually working, putting that money into Bitcoin and crypto. It was literally doubling in a month. So, like, getting paid $30 an hour, if you can get a second job and you put it into Bitcoin and Bitcoin doubles, you're literally making double the amount you're making at your job. It's like mind-blowing how people are still trying to not wrap their head around Bitcoin and crypto. So love you guys, love the space. Can't wait to catch up with you guys. Love you, peace.